Good morning, Hojo staff, students, and families. Welcome to day 2 of our school year. We're ready to say the pledge and start our day, so please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Eyes are on the flag, voices are off, bodies are still, standing respectfully, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance and the preamble of the Constitution together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Well, good morning, everybody. Day 2. Now, day 1 did not go as we had originally planned, but sometimes those things happen. In fact, I thought about the poem that we should probably do today is Robert Burns, where he says, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. But I prepared a different poem for today, and no doubt there'll be a time when that poem also becomes appropriate again, so I'm sure we will find a time to say again, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. But we did work really hard to get Canvas ready for yesterday, and it just did not happen. Well, technically, I think it did happen, but it was way late in the evening. But we're ready for today. And so we're going to do our best with that, and I'm going to give you some more information. But we're just going to follow our routine like we normally do so that you get used to this. I know there's a number of you for whom this announcement is something new. A quarter of our school enrollment is brand new, a quarter. So a quarter, another way to say that would be a fourth, right? Or we take our total enrollment, which is just over 400, and divide that by 4, that gives us 1/4. Right? 1/4 of our enrollment is new. And so all of these announcements are new to you. So I might, for a while, still refer to students who were here last year and what they may know and get you up to speed so that you can participate in these morning announcements. So yesterday would have been the first day you heard our announcements if you were new. And we introduced a composition, a musical composition for you to hear. For those of you who were here last year, it was the composition we started with last year also. So I'm going to play a little bit of it, which you can go and listen to the whole thing on our YouTube channel where you found these announcements. If you go to playlists, there's a section there that has all of our classical music that students at Hojo have learned. So this was the selection that we played yesterday, and it's also the one we played at the beginning of the year last year. I'm going to play a little bit of it, and you tell me what we're listening to and who the composer is. Okay, friends, what were we listening to? Tell me who the composer was. Edvard Grieg, and the name of the piece? Peer Gynt, Suite Number 1, Morning. That's right. It's a great piece to listen to in the morning when you're starting your day. And music does have a way of changing our mood. We can be really frustrated and having a hard time because Canvas isn't working and there's so many problems that have to get fixed and all these things are wrong. And then you put on some music and it can just change the way you feel. So that's why we want to learn some classical, great pieces of music to help us and enrich our lives and change how we think about things. All right, so for art, okay, friends, this was the piece that we had yesterday, and I showed it to you. This piece of art, do you remember? It's probably easy to remember the title more so than the artist. So what's the title? Washington Crossing the Delaware, that's right. And the artist? Emanuel Leutze. That's right. Sometimes it's really challenging to say some of the names of people because the pronunciations are so different in the way that it looks like it's spelled. So, and we talked yesterday a little bit about Washington Crossing the Delaware, remember? And we talked about a friend of his, or somebody he knew at the time, had written a pamphlet. And the pamphlet was to encourage people in the dark times of the American Revolution, because it was not going well. Remember, we talked about the Hojo basketball team competing against Boston Celtics. Not a fair fight. And and the penalty, if they were caught and if the war ended badly and England had won that war, what would have been the penalty? Death was the penalty. So these people had a lot on the line in order to be able to start our new nation. So they had to believe heavily in it, because that was really important to them, and they believed that they were in the right, and that's what they had to fight for. And so do you remember who the friend was, or the person who sent him the pamphlet, who wrote the pamphlet that Washington read to his troops prior to taking that boat trip across the Delaware River into New Jersey? The person who wrote it was, do you remember? That's a hard one. Thomas Paine. That's right. Thomas Paine wrote that. And do you remember the title of it? It's called The Crisis, right? Crisis was a terrible problem. And he said, these are the times that try men's souls. Those are words that sort of echo, right? We can hear them, we can feel them in our hearts, you know, that those are the things that were so difficult back then. And we face our terrible times now, right? We're in a crisis right now. And they may try, these are the times that might try our souls. But he also says that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. So that's what we're looking for. We're going to work really hard. It's a glorious triumph. The canvas is ready to go today. So I found this book, Liberty or Death. And this is one of the books that is available at the school in the classrooms. I'm not sure which classroom has this particular one, but you could find this book at our school in probably more than one classroom. Liberty or Death, the American Revolution. And so when I open up this book and I look, if you can see, I don't know how it'll translate here, but this is actually what it probably looked more like when Washington was crossing the Delaware, right? Dark, rainy, snowy, people everywhere on the banks of the river getting ready to cross. And then I found this was also an artist's rendition of the Battle of Trenton, which is the battle that took place once Washington did cross that Delaware. Now they were crossing that Delaware River. He's probably not standing in the boat. That's probably a little bit of a poetic license on the part of the artist. It's probably very scary and dark, and he's not standing there triumphantly, but that's how it's depicted because that's how the artist felt about the scene, and that's why he made it look like that. So, when we see art and music, it evokes feeling because the person who created it put feeling into it, and so we can feel that when we read it, a poem, or look at a piece of art. We feel that energy and the feelings that the person who created it put into it. So the poem today I have is about the Battle of Trenton. So once Washington crosses the Delaware, they get over to the other side, and it's Christmas Eve. So I'm going to read to you a little bit about the Battle of Trenton, a poem. Its author is anonymous. We don't know who the author was. So the Battle of Trenton. On Christmas Day in '76, our ragged troops with bayonets fixed for Trenton marched away. The Delaware Sea, the boats below, the light obscured by hail and snow, but no signs of dismay. Right? They did not have dismay. They were not sad. They were not worried. They were just ready. They were ready for this because they had been encouraged by those words from Thomas Paine and George Washington. Our object was the Hessian band that dared invade fair freedom's land and quarter in that place. Great Washington he led us on, whose streaming flag in storm or sun had never known disgrace. So the Hessian band, they're talking about the group of German soldiers who were on the other side of that riverbank. Now they're German, why are they not English, you might ask? And they were hired by the king to support the British troops. And so we had to fight against these troops who were paid to fight against the revolutionists, so George Washington and the colonists. So the next stanza, in silent march we passed the night, each soldier panting for the fight, though quite benumbed with frost. Green on the left at 6 began, the right was led by Sullivan, who never a moment lost. So he's talking about it's still dark, each soldier is panting. Don't you think that you'd be nervous if you were going into a fight? Like your breathing would be hard, panting, even though they're freezing cold and they're panting and waiting for this battle. Their pickets stormed, the alarm was spread that rebels risen from the dead were marching into town. Some scampered here, some scampered there, and some for action did prepare, but soon their arms laid down. So they surprised them. They surprised those Hessian soldiers, and everyone had to jump up and was scrambling around, trying to get ready for that battle. 1,200 servile miscreants with all their colors, guns, and tents were trophies of the day. The frolic over the bright canteen in center, front, and rear was seen, driving fatigue away. So they captured 1,200 of the enemy soldiers, and that was their trophy for the day. And they were so excited that they had scored this victory that they no longer felt tired. Now, brothers of the patriot bands, let's sing deliverance from the hands of arbitrary sway. And as our life is but a span, let's touch the tankard while we can in memory of that day. So he's talking about celebrating because the memory of that day is still great, even today, all these years later. And that they were singing deliverance of the hands of arbitrary sway. So when we study the Declaration of Independence again, or if you've already studied it with me and you've memorized it, you know that tyranny is the word that is used often. Tyranny, arbitrary sway. But we do not want to be given in to tyranny. We could govern ourselves, and we did not need a king to tell us willy-nilly how things were going to be, right? We could consent to our own government. Okay, friends, so for announcements today, there were no birthdays listed from students who were here last year. So Ms. Screen was working really hard. I don't have that list yet for new students. On Monday, if there were students who had a birthday yesterday, today, I'm going to announce it on Monday, and any students from last year who had birthdays, if you have a birthday on Monday or over the weekend. So Canvas is ready, and you will be receiving an email to log in today. Some teachers have more posted than others, so right now you're only responsible for watching the introductory video, and there'll also be an optional orientation video that you can watch. So the email that I send will tell you how to log in, and it's basically your first initial and your last name, or if there are more than one person with that first initial and last name at our school, then there's a 2 at the end, and your date of birth. Chromebooks and tablets. Chromebooks, well, many of them were picked up yesterday, and over probably 115 were picked up yesterday. So we do have a few more still at the school if you did not get one. It's 1 per family for right now. Others have been ordered and will be available, I'm hoping, next week. But our best laid plans sometimes go awry. But that's what we're hoping for. Monday, tablets should be here. So on Tuesday, hopefully, we'll have kindergarten and first grade come pick up their devices. In the meantime, if you can use a phone or a different device, it's just a short video to watch from your teacher, and also to post maybe a hello or a comment or two, and that will get us started for Canvas. So no other announcements for today. So let's do our student pledge. I will do the good, I will learn the true, and I will love the beautiful. Have a great day, everyone, and a great weekend.